It's the right angle segment that dare not speak its name. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is your lightning round.
You just did it. You just did what you said you weren't going to do.
Darn it, every time.
We can take that out in
so
post.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll CGI right over. It'll be like a Star Wars sequel. Anyway, in case you are new to the lightning round concept, instead of digging deep into a single subject, I have secretly selected headline stories for Bill and Scott. They have no idea what's coming. This is ambush talk show stuff here right now. This is guerrilla tactics. Yeah,
and I should say that people have that about as well memorized now as they have the safety instructions on an airplane flight.
just completely ignore it. So
right.
without further ado, let's see. My notes say we're starting with Scott this week. Oh, I love this story. I call it outsider insider trading. TikTok stock traders are using Nancy Pelosi's financial disclosures to position their own portfolios. Congress passed a law requiring that they disclose their financial transactions within about 45 days. And as we know, Nancy Pelosi and her husband have been very lucky in their stock picks regarding laws that Nancy Pelosi has picked through the House or pushed through the House. Scott, isn't it just a sweet bit of justice that people are actually able to sort of ride Nancy's coattails into financial success?
They could ride Nancy's coattails, and there have been a couple other stories in the news recently, including two leaders on regional Fed boards who had made some financial decisions that were connected to their work, and 131 federal judges apparently have ruled in cases over a period of, I think it was 8 to 10 years, where they or family members had a personal financial stake in the outcome of those court decisions. They should have recused themselves, and some of these judges are now writing to attorneys and saying, look, hundreds of cases now have to be reconsidered because of the fact that they had a stake in these. It just seems like I think the only way to handle this is if you aspire to public office, you need to take a vow of poverty. And I don't mean that you should put your goods and holdings in a blind trust. I mean, you should be forced to divest everything and give it to the poor. And then you can start off, we'll provide you a dormitory, maybe a uniform, and occasional laundry services so the uniform looks sharp when you're at work, because my goodness, Nancy Pelosi's clothing. I was just thinking about this today. It's funny you do this topic. Nancy Pelosi, in the picture I saw in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal website, is wearing this sharp purple business suit. And I'm like, holy cow, that looks great. I wonder what a suit like that costs. I mean, it was awesome. And then I thought, I don't think I've ever seen her wear that before. In fact, she has like a different bright colored, beautiful suit on every time I see her. Like, where does all this money come from? So I think if Nancy Pelosi, if you say, look, we know you care about the people of your district. We know you care about the children, especially the poor children, the immigrant children, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. We are going to just take all the money that you currently have in your possession, your husband's possession, and we're going to spread that among the people of your district. And then you're going to live in this dormitory and you'll be wearing, essentially like prison garb. Hey, that's not a bad idea.
Oh, I like that a lot. Scott, I think you're right.
She'd be the new Republican leader of the House of Representatives if that were ever actually enforced.
Yes.
Right. I think Scott's idea is even meaner than my idea. Since we can't get term limits passed, I suggested something else. It's called Take an Oath of Office, Lose a Finger. And you get introductions like five-term incumbent Lefty McDonald. And I think there's some real merit to both of these plans. And maybe we can do them both. It's a hope. Let's go to Bill.
Thumbs up.
Thanks for sneaking that one in there. I'm going to cry now. All right, Bill, the Marine officer who blasted his leaders over the Afghanistan withdrawal is now in the Brig. He's been arrested.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. Lieutenant Colonel Stu Scheller's father told, I think it's Military Times, I can't remember which paper, but this is a quote. They had a gag order on him and asked him not to speak. He did, and they incarcerated him. They don't know what to do with him. Well, I don't know. Does it look to you like they knew what to do with him?
I'm trying to remember who said this. It might have been Lincoln. It was certainly during the Civil War. But he said, somebody like that said, a dungeon's not necessarily a bad place for a patriot to be.
Wow. Yeah. That was dark and necessary. Are you done? Shall I move back to Scott?
I am. Nothing I can add to that.
Yeah. It's just outrageous. Scott, you know what? We were talking about this on the backstage segment. Senator Tom Cotton confronted General Milley in testimony on Tuesday and asked Milley why he hadn't resigned. Cotton said, "I'm shocked to learn that your advice wasn't sought until August 25th on staying past the August 31 deadline. I understand that you're the principal military advisor, that you advise, you don't decide, the president does. But if all this is true, General Milley, why haven't you resigned?" And Milley said, "It would be an incredible act of political defiance for a commissioned officer to just resign because my advice is not taken." Scott, a lot more happened, though, than just his advice not being taken, didn't it?
Well, that's an interesting quandary, because I know that a lot of people stay involved with organizations, whether government or not-for-profit or for-profit organizations, thinking, well, things aren't going the way I'd like them to go, but I'm the only positive influence here. All of us have a little bit of a savior complex, and we think that, we're the only right-thinking individuals. And if we hang in there, maybe we'll be able to change the trajectory of the organization. So I'm just granting just really generous motives to General Milley that he's unlikely to deserve. He may be thinking to himself, I've got to help out here. I'm serving my country. It's not the president. And I don't think he's obligated to resign if the president doesn't take his advice. However, it becomes really difficult, as it did in that hearing, when one of our representatives in the hearings basically said, didn't the president lie when he said that none of his military advisors warned him about getting these troops out of Afghanistan? And he had 3 generals there on the panel that they were interrogating, and all 3 of them basically said, well, I'm not going to characterize the comments of the president. I just stand by my former remarks. Of course, their former remarks were that they had advised the president that they should keep a concentration of troops in Afghanistan because things could spiral out of control if they left.
Indeed. Bill, anti-Semitic attacks in 2020 outnumbered attacks against Muslims, Asians, transgender people combined. And the lead to the story interested me. The agency, and I can't remember which one, recorded 676 instances of criminal offenses motivated by prejudice or hatred of Jews. And again, that number is more than all of those other minority groups combined. And isn't it something of a miracle that in a nation of 331 million people, that there were only 676 of these crimes in an entire year? We're getting along better than they're telling us, aren't we?
Plus, they're only Jews.
Oh,
That's not a joke. I'm not joking. I didn't say that for a laugh, and I'm not laughing. I'm saying that because that is the reason that you haven't heard about this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I started hearing about this unprecedented rash of anti-Asian hatred, I realized, okay, now there's just 3 groups of people that are doing well in America, according to the race baiters: white people, obviously, and their white supremacy, and their keeping everybody else down; Asians and Jews. So once this anti-Asian hatred wave that was essentially created started to break, I realized, okay, so now they're trying to peel the Asian communities off against the middle of the country and turn them into victims as well. And the reason that you don't hear about these hate crimes against Jews, Steve, is because they are remarkably successful as a demographic, and they're probably even harder to turn than the Asians. And so here we go. You will be an invisible group, and you will not count in the grand scheme of things in terms of the grievance circus unless you can be weaponized against the middle. This is essentially everything that critical theory is all about. And it's not lost on me that most of these people are anti-Semitic swine to begin with, so it actually is fairly convenient for them. But the real reason you haven't heard about this is the same reason that you don't hear about how many people died this week of heart disease or diabetes or cancer or traffic accidents when they run the numbers for COVID. And that is, you cannot have any sense of context whatsoever. You cannot put those crimes in context with other crimes, because if you do, you'll realize what you just said, and that is that these things are microscopic. They're absolutely artificially created. And the example of the genuine hate crime problem in this country is of a group that has not yet been victimized. And so not only has it not been advertised, it's been suppressed. See how it works?
I do,
Steve,
indeed.
Can
Thank
I throw
you
in
for that.
something?
Yeah.
I suspect those numbers are suppressed for the same reason that the number of women who are sexually assaulted each year is not accurately recorded, because there are a lot of people who are victims of this who do not report it. And my stomach turns when I see the comments, and I know it'll happen again on YouTube when we post an episode like this, because there is still an unbelievable level of tolerance for anti-Semitism, and the people who show up to post comments that are just nasty, cruel, hateful, anti-Jewish comments in our comment section. We don't control who's allowed to comment there, but I just want to personally say I've got no stomach for that. And why don't you go somewhere where you could find,
just go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else, and don't just. Until you get an education, until you study a little history, until you see what has happened to this people for hundreds, if not thousands of years, just shut up.
And thank you for that, Scott. I've picked a couple of headlines for myself to round this out. They're related. North Carolina-based hospital system fires about 175 workers in one of the largest ever mass terminations due to the Victrola mandate that not everybody is cooperating with. And New York State is prepared for tens of thousands of health workers to lose their jobs over the Victrola mandate, and they're going to send in the National Guard instead. We've got something going on here, and it's the war against first responders that we saw start last summer with the whole defund the police movement is becoming a war on everybody who treats people at their most vulnerable, whether they're the victim of a crime, of a natural disaster, or now of a pandemic. And I'm not exactly sure how this got started, but I know how it ends, and it ain't pretty. And that is your lightning round for this week. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.